Thank you again for taking time to learn more about this exciting opportunity, the Citrus CDSS Innovation Fellowship and AIC Awards. So over the next 15 or 20 minutes, we'll give you some more information about the program in addition to what you find on the website, and then we'll have a live Q&A. So I'm happy to answer your questions. If you want to put them in the chat, we'll address them toward the end. So Citrus, you're probably all quite aware, is a Center for Information Technology Research in the Interest of Society. We were founded 25 years ago now through a grant from the state of California, and we are one of 4 institutes for science and innovation across the UC system. Our mission is really encapsulated in our name, creating information technology solutions for society's most pressing challenges. So we have a number of research initiatives that we pursue to accomplish that. This is really a snapshot of what Citrus is about. We operate over these 4 campuses, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Merced, and UC Santa Cruz. Those are the campuses where faculty and PIs from those campuses are eligible to submit an application to the AIC award program. We have 4 research initiatives in aviation, in climate, in health, and in tech policy. And the broad categories that we're looking for these submissions could touch on any number of those 4 research initiatives. In addition to that, we have a number of other programs, including an innovation and entrepreneurship. We're part of that broad ecosystem, including the Citrus Foundry and now the AIC Award Program, which started last year, has also brought us more into that environment of other incubation and acceleration programs on campus. In addition to that, we have the Innovation Hub, which hosts the Workforce Innovation Program. So these are some of the student-facing programs. We host Visiting Innovators and also other programs for students here in Sutardja Hall. Also, you may be aware of the Citrus Seed Funding Awards. That's also another program that supports faculty's early stage research. So that's an important distinction actually between what we're funding with this AIC program and the seed funding program, which typically happens early in the calendar year. So that supports more earlier stage research. The UC Berkeley College of Computing, Data Science, and Society is one of the newest colleges here at UC Berkeley, and it also has a broad mandate very much in alignment with Citrus's interests. So we were fortunate to be able to team up together with CDSS this time to be able to recruit more broadly from some of the faculty and PIs who work in AI and advanced technology. So you'll see here some of their core principles. There are more details about this. Kirsty, who will be joining us later, comes from the Berkeley Institute for Data Science, or BIDS.
So my name is Kirsty. I'm the Executive Director for the Berkeley Institute for Data Science. So BIDS, Berkeley Institute for Data Science, is an institute inside of the College for Computing, Data Science, and Society. And as you can see on the slide, the vision for the college is to educate all students to approach data ethically, masterfully, advance the state of the art in core of computing, data science, and statistics, really excitingly create new interdisciplinary fields, bringing computing and data science together with other disciplines. So thinking about maybe linking up with urban planning or with environmental studies, or integrating with cultural analytics, with the arts and humanities, with social sciences, making sure that when we think about data science, and importantly, when we think about the societal impact of the work in the college, we are learning from expertise and incorporating expertise from across all of the different domains, not just our core departments of computing and statistics. And the goal, as that relates to, is to make transformative and sustained projects on the issues of human and societal significance. Inside of the college are academic departments. So we have the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, and that department is actually both within the College of Computing, Data Science, and Society, and also in the College of Engineering. We have the Department of Statistics, we have the Data Science Undergraduate Studies, we have, and then 2 centers focused on computational biology and computational precision health. So you can sort of think that they don't literally say the name data science for biology or data science for precision health, but they are sort of thinking about integrating data science methods to answer questions in biology and health. And then we also have research institutes. I lead the Berkeley Institute for Data Science, and we focus on supporting collaboration, particularly with expertise in open source software and open scholarship. There is the Bakar Institute for Digital Materials for the Planet, and that's thinking about how you can use artificial intelligence and data science to find new materials that may allow us to work in a more sustainable way, to work and live in a more sustainable way. We have the Centre for Healthcare Marketplace Innovation, which is joint with the Haas Business Centre, thinking about scaling knowledge and expertise across the whole healthcare system. And the Schmidt Center for Data Science and the Environment, and that's doing really, really fantastic work, thinking about how do we implement our knowledge into real world impact with partners across industry, private sector, and other academic units.
Thank you so much, Kirsty. That was a wonderful overview of CDSS. So this year, as I mentioned, we're pleased to partner with CDSS to put out the fellowship program and AIC awards. The Academic Innovation Catalyst is the sponsor of these programs through philanthropic support. We have been fortunate to be able to host a program last year that was similar. And then this year, as I said, we're expanding it and working together with CDSS. So again, AIC shares similar ambitions with CDSS and Citrus to support the transformation of UC research into scalable and high impact solutions, addressing society's most pressing challenges. So as I said, last year we had 3 awardees, and I'll give you a little flavor of what each of their projects are. So Reza Asani is from UC Merced, and he created this sensor clip for fast, cost-effective monitoring of plant water status, creating a reliable and portable sensor that can monitor the water status of any crop, helping growers optimize irrigation schedules without changing their existing systems. Due to its low cost, the technology will be accessible to small and large farmers alike. This advancement will increase the efficiency of water use and food production, even in the face of changing climate conditions. So that was one. The second is somewhat related, nanotechnologies for rapid crop bioengineering from Markia Landry here at UC Berkeley. Bioengineering can boost a plant's nutritional value and enhance a crop's yield and increase the food system's climate resilience, but it can take more than a decade and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. This project seeks to streamline the expensive and time-intensive process by investigating multiple nanotechnology strategies to precisely and seamlessly deliver nucleic acids and proteins to plant germline tissue. I've heard Marquita describe it as IVF for plants, so that caught my mind. And finally, the third project that was funded last year is from Professor Saif Islam at UC Davis on advanced hardware security with unclonable ID protection enabled by photonic technology. So this is a cybersecurity project. It aims to protect computer networks from security threats, a complex problem with many cybersecurity systems relying on random number generation to keep the data safe. Instead, this project aims to develop an innovative chip that uses light to generate unpredictable random numbers to generate unique patterns that are physically impossible to replicate, making the chip highly secure. So it has a potential to safeguard a wide range of systems from personal devices to critical infrastructure against cyber attacks. So that gives you a sense of both the technology side as well as the marketplace for these 3 projects that were funded last year. I've spoken a little bit about the purpose of the award is to transform research into viable commercial solutions. So that's really the intent. Again, emerging IT to benefit society. We're open to also having projects such as open source projects that aren't necessarily immediately commercializable, but we would look for them to have scale and impact. So don't be dissuaded necessarily if you don't see a clear commercial path for your innovation. We'll consider those other models as well, but just want to make sure that it's going to actually have an impact in the areas that we're setting out. This year, we're fortunate to be able to fund 5 awards, and each of them will receive up to $200,000. We, in the last year, made $100,000 awards with the possibility of renewal. So that's how the award is structured. And again, it's open to faculty and postdocs, anyone with PI status, at the 4 Citrus campuses, as well as the 2 national labs, Lawrence Berkeley Lab and Lawrence Livermore National Lab. So this sets out the eligibility that I just touched on. Again, I have seen some questions about, is funding able to support postdocs or research scientists? Yes, that is allowed. The only disallowance is that the award cannot support faculty salary. So it could be the faculty member who's working with a postdoc or working with a research scientist, or if those categories also have PI status themselves, they're welcome to apply and use some of the funding for their own salaries. Just faculty cannot use it for their salaries. The evaluation criteria is, as I mentioned before, designed to bring innovative solutions to make a social impact, bringing them to market. Requested outcome of the project is to identify risks and barriers to commercialization, product market fit, customer discovery, and viability for venture capital or other investment. So these are some of the questions that we'll be looking for you to answer in your proposal. And if you come to the final stages, there will be an in-person pitch session, and those we'll dive into those questions a little bit more deeply there. We would like for the commercialization to be relatively soon on the horizon, so not just a good idea that someday might result in a commercializable product, but really to have a clear plan of something that could be made into a product or a service within 2 to 3 years. As I mentioned, each of these 5 fellowships come with up to $200,000 over 2 years, as long as you're achieving certain milestones. The awardees will be recognized as AIC fellows and gain access to mentorship and coaching, legal support, business plan and pitch development, market research, all of these kinds of services that are necessary for perhaps a faculty member or any early startup founder to get a handle on, in addition to actually having a great idea with their technology. We would ask the awardees also to actively participate in workshops and other opportunities. We call on the awardees occasionally to make presentations, say to meetings with chancellors or meetings with other high-level academic leaders. And we would ask you similarly to be willing to share your work and the results of your work over the course of the next year or 2. So here are a few budget details. I know these questions also frequently come up. There's no overhead taken on these gifts. So when you receive a $100,000 grant, you'll get the $100,000 in full. You don't need to involve your sponsored projects office either. This is an internal transfer of funds, so you don't need to involve your SPO office. We will need contact with your research administrator just to be able to transfer the funds appropriately. So again, I had touched on this limitation. The funds cannot be used for faculty salary. And also the funding, again, is not meant to fund basic research, but rather to fund that next phase where you already have an idea that you've probably tested out. Maybe you have a pilot, something where you feel fairly confident that this is a path that you want to pursue that will result in some commercializable idea. Here is the timeline. The online application portal opened a few weeks ago, last month. And so you can feel free to take a look at that. You can scroll through the application as if you want to prepare before you submit your final application. Today, here we are having the online info session. We inserted a step this year that we think will be really helpful for the program, and that's an intent to apply form. It's very short. But it really would help us to be able to get a sense of what proposals will be coming in. As you might imagine, last year we had, I think, 66 proposals in total. And so trying to find reviewers for all of those across a number of disciplines was a bit of a challenge. And so part of the intent to apply also asks for your suggestions for reviewers, and that will really help us to expedite the process. The proposals are due online at 5 p.m. on October 31st. So before you go out trick-or-treating, you can press send, and we'll look forward to seeing your proposals then. We'll have 2 rounds of review. One will be for the technical feasibility of it. So that will be where we'll recruit other faculty members to look at the proposals. And then for those that seem technically viable, we'll send them to a second set of reviewers who will look at them for the business promise and capacity and look at it more from the innovation and entrepreneurship lens. So we will have a set of finalists since we have, we'll be able to fund 5 proposals. I imagine we'll probably have 10 to 15 finalists come and pitch in person in December. We'll schedule that probably the first week or 2 of December. And then we'll be sure to notify the awardees first thing in January, and the performance period begins January 1st. So it runs for the calendar year of 2026 and 2027. And that is what I had to share. And now we can move to some of the Q&A. Kirsty, if there was anything else that you wanted to add at this point.
I think there was one question in the development of the proposals around if you are working on open source, can you participate in this? And I think to sort of preempt that, just in case anyone does have a question about it, the answer is yes, you can absolutely have business models around open source software. So that is something that is inside of scope. And if there's anyone who's here that wants to ask more specific questions around what that might look like, I guess the point is that there are lots of ways to do tech transfer, and open source is not excluded from those options. So that's just a tiny little, that's obviously bringing my own personal interests and biases into it. But if anyone does want to ask any questions related to those, please do. But yeah, otherwise I think we can definitely jump into the questions.
Great, thank you, Kirsty. And that was a question about the open source that had come up in some of the pre-submitted questions. So thank you for clarifying that. The first question is, are research projects that do not fall under any of the 4 initiatives welcome to submit? And the answer is yes. The call is really broad this year. So the topics are largely AI related or advanced technology. So it doesn't need to fall within any of those 4 initiative areas specifically, but rather more broadly when you have good ideas about advancing technology or especially AI implementation in any of these applications, we welcome your proposal. Are we eligible to apply for a Citrus or AIC award if we are also part of the Baker program? Yes, that wouldn't be an exclusion. If you are already part of the Baker program, then you're welcome also to submit. Are health-related projects not IT-focused eligible? I would have a little bit of a problem understanding the question. I guess the purpose of the grant is really about information technology. However, it could also be other kinds of technology related to health could be included. So for instance, you saw in the plant genome example, it is technology focused, but not information technology, if you know what I mean. So there could be projects that, I guess the answer is yes. Are health related projects not IT focused eligible? Yes, if you're working on some kind of new technology that where IT is not focused, then it would also still be in scope. Sorry for that long answer. Thank you for letting me think through that on the spot. Yes, Oliver, you're correct. 66 applicants and 3 were awarded last year. So we'll see how many we get this year, and we'll be able to award 5. We will be sharing the PowerPoint slide, and the recording of the presentation will also be available. If the funding cannot be used for faculty salary, what can it be used for? You can use it for, if you have a postdoc that you're working with who's going to be doing a lot of the work, that's frequently how the funds are used. If you need equipment fees, if you need to attend conferences, travel is allowed. So there are a number of things that expenses that would be allowed. I think most of the applicants last year were intending to spend a lot of it on staff. So if that's a postdoc or if that's a student, to help them carry out their program. Is it in conflict with other fellowships or grants? No. If you have other grants, you're welcome to apply for this one as well. Can there be multiple PIs on the proposal? I wouldn't disallow it, but you would have to understand that you are also going to be splitting the funds. So I would probably not encourage it, but you know, I think we would consider it if that proposal came through. Based on the PowerPoint, I'm understanding that a postdoc can be a PI of the proposal and we cannot use the funds for faculty salary. Correct. Can professors also be PIs on the project? Yes, professors can be PIs. I hope that answers the question. Would it be eligible for an undergraduate student? That's probably unlikely. You would need to have PI status on your campus. So that is a designation that you would have to request through the Vice Chancellor for Research's office. And I don't know of very many undergraduate students who would achieve that status. You could look into it, but I think that's probably unlikely. Kirsty, I see your hand. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to dig into this like multiple PIs
Sure.
question. So one of the purposes of the program is that the awardees will be recognized as fellows, and they will sort of get connections, they'll be able to connect with each other. And so I wonder if, do we know, Camille, if there are multiple applicants on a proposal, will just one of them be actually sort of named as the fellow? I think that's sort of maybe part of the question, like, or if it was a team of two, would they both be fellows? Would they both be identified as fellows?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think to some extent we would cross that bridge when we come to it and see how competitive the joint proposal might be. The funding is limited. The designation of a fellow maybe isn't limited, so we can see how that would work. If we have a really outstanding proposal, I wouldn't rule it out. If the project is stemming from the work of a graduate student, could they apply if they are collaborating with an eligible PI like a faculty? Yes, it's you would have to decide, I guess, with your faculty member who is going to be the applicant. So either the faculty member could be the PI and apply and then pay for the services of the postdoc, or if the postdoc also has exceptional PI status, then they could apply as a PI themselves. Are you eligible to apply if the postdoc appointment will start next year? For that, I would suggest actually working with your PI. If you mean next year, like next academic year, you need to have PI standing by January. So that would be something to consider in your proposal. Kirsty, maybe I'll let you answer this one about some kinds of business models you would want to see for open source software.
Oh, I think I suppose a business model that wouldn't work very well is give me a gift so I can do what I want, right? That's in many cases that's fine, and there are many projects that do run off of gifts and they do what they want. But I think for this call, for the purpose of this program, it makes more sense to think about what does that look like from a sustainable kind of model. So there's lots of ways of doing it. It could be from gifts. You could set up a sort of, repeated giving. You could set up, there's a Berkeley corporate engagement network that it has been meeting regularly in the last few months to think about how do you bring together organizations or people or entities that want to sustain open source infrastructure. There's other business models where you may want to have regular, sort of contract work to have open core and to keep sort of features being developed. So there's lots of different business models, and I think the strength of the application would be to say we've thought about it. That's the and also we want some kind of funding, support, mentorship in order to test to see if that translation pathway works. So that's the answer about specific business models. You just really need to pick the one that makes the most sense for you. And I suppose the point that I, representing BIDS and representing the open source program office, would make is that it is not the case that the only business model for tech transfer is to sell licenses to your code. You can actually kind of have people access the code, but pay for services or pay for contract work or other kind of types of, or maybe even just have repeated giving. But there are lots of different models for that.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that answer. So the next question, are projects based in IT but require field data eligible? For example, was the testing of the plant water sensors last year included as part of the proposal? We understand that to test out your idea, it probably is going to require some data collection. That is part of proving your idea and testing out whatever the new technology is. So yes, I would say that those kinds of programs are eligible. Can the postdoc join the training and mentorship opportunities? I probably. The question is how those opportunities will be structured. So mostly they're going to be kind of one-on-one opportunities with the founder or the awardee. However, there will be lots of other kinds of training and mentorship available. I'm assuming you mean if the postdoc is not the PI. So there are a few other projects that are in the offering, at least here at UC Berkeley, and that we can help make available to other Citrus campuses as well, that will provide more of that coaching and mentorship for people who are affiliated with these funded projects. Can it be used to pay undergraduates and involve them in the research? Yes. When you say advanced technology, is it related only to AI or computer science, or could it be mechanical engineering or environmental engineering? It can also apply to those other fields. As you saw in some of the examples, the advanced technology might be based on plant genomics or on the sensors, the water sensors. We had out of 66 applications, there were a lot of different disciplines that were represented in that application batch. So I would say yes, as long as your idea is innovative and uses technology in whatever field it might be, then it would be competitive. There was a question about the slides. Those will go on our website. They'll be available afterward. Can the funding be used to pay for grad student, not postdoc salaries? Yes. If my project is already well developed in active use and approaching broader market readiness, would it still be eligible for this award? Could the funding be applied toward expanding the product's reach? Maybe. I wouldn't dissuade you from applying, but we're really looking for that kind of sweet spot between you're past the basic research stage, but you're not yet to full on, having raised seed money or any other outside investment funds. We want to really help accelerate that transition from academia into the marketplace. And it sounds like if perhaps you've already made that leap, then your project wouldn't necessarily be as competitive for this particular award. Who will own the IP and licenses of the deliverable project? This will depend on the UC policies that apply. So we can send you links about that if you're unfamiliar, but the UC has well-defined policies around IP ownership for faculty and for students. After the postdoc got the position in other locations, is postdoc able to join the project and use the funds for the postdoc? As long as the other location is one of the other Citrus campuses, I think the answer is yes, if I understand the question correctly. So that would be the requirement, was that you're affiliated with one of the 4 Citrus campuses. That brings us to the end of these questions.
I think the other thing to say about IP, because it does relate to this sort of question about making something open source, is there are, in many cases, the exact answer requires you to go and talk to the intellectual property team with the specifics of your use case, your technology, and the business model that you're proposing. So you may, I suppose, I would suspect that you likely, if you were successful, you would be engaging with this documentation throughout the project. And you may want to engage with it and have a call with them and get some information in developing your proposal, because a strong proposal, again, will have demonstrated that you don't have to have done everything, but you've thought about some sort of viable mechanism for going from the research into having a product that could be scaled. So I think the point about intellectual property is both, don't assume that one answer fits everyone, so because that's not true, and don't leave it to the very, very end to start thinking about it.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. And there are resources, I'm sure, on every Citrus campus. I know that we have people attending today from all 4 campuses, so thank you. There was a question about grad students on a particular visa apply. The key is whether you have PI status. So we don't weigh in on visas. It wouldn't exclude that, but that's the only eligibility question is, do you have PI status on your campus? Well, I can stick around for a little bit longer if people have further questions, but that is the bulk of our presentation. I really want to thank the sponsors of the Academic Innovation Catalyst for making this award program possible. It was a fantastic program last year, and I'm glad that we'll be able to fund 5 awards this year. Yes, there's information about the past awarded projects on the Citrus website, and it may be in the chat, or we can put it in the chat. Yes, it's at the top of the chat. If you want to take a look there, there's a link. So thank you for your attention and your interest. As I said, we'll put the slides and the presentation out very soon, and please refer others to it if they have questions. And we're also here and available to answer questions as you put your proposals together this month and send them in by October 31st. Thank you.